Hello. Thank you for joining us. We have an exciting group here today. Kim Parizek, who's a member of the BTA travel team, and Richard Bravo with AmaWaterways. And AmaWaterways has river cruises in Europe, in all different destinations, but we really want to focus on Egypt and the Nile River today because it's an exciting destination that is very popular right now amongst our travelers, and people are very inquisitive about what it would be like to partake on a river cruise with AmaWaterways to Egypt. Kim has joined our team in the last year and a half, I believe, and she has cruise experience as well as a lot of experience putting together group travel. She's done trips to Alaska with families, groups of families, I believe over 75 travelers. And she's also done river cruises for women travelers, family travelers, couples traveling. So Kim, thank you for joining us today. And Richard is our representative with AmaWaterways. Richard, hello.
Hello, how are we doing? Thank you so much for having me here. Appreciate it.
We're doing great.
Fantastic. So you guys have chosen a really wonderful destination for a number of reasons. One, it's our first step back into Egypt. We used to operate there some years ago, but we're happy to be back. So I'm excited to be talking about what makes this trip with AmaWaterways so special and so unique.
And Kim and Richard have been working on a group for 2023. It'll be a sale that will be hosted by Boutique Travel Advisors. Kim, what are some exciting things that you've learned about Egypt, the itinerary being offered by AmaWaterways, and really what excitement we can look forward to as it relates to this new ship that Richard will be sharing with us today that will be launching in late 2021. Is that correct, Richard?
That's correct. We officially began in September of this year.
You know, some of the things that really excite me is I love to be comfortable and yet explore the exotic. And Ama has gone out of their way to make it's a brand new ship, even though it's an older hull. You're going to travel down the Nile in the most luxurious, newest ship on the water. And one of the things that I love to come away with from a trip is not only being comfortable, but experiencing the exotic, but also learning something. And what people don't realize is these are not big ships. This is not some big liner. You're going to become very familiar with and intimate with your guides. There's one guide for every 23 people. And what that means is that these people have 4-year degrees in Egyptology. You're really going to be an intensive learning experience with lifelong learners, and it's just going to be a really neat experience. They have gone out of their way to do something, and Richard will probably go over some of those things, but really, really exceptional visits to some of the sites that a lot of other companies don't go to. Richard's going to go into all of it, but you'll see why I'm so attracted to this. I think it's just if you've ever wanted to do something like this, this is the way to do it.
Richard has a presentation to share with us. So Richard, let's go ahead and get started.
Angie asked me a little bit earlier, why would we want to do Egypt on a river cruise and with AmaWaterways? It's an excellent question. It's a fair question. One of the things that I would share at the top, in addition to a number of other things that I'll be sharing during the presentation, but we're going to be doing some hand-holding with you. We are going to be working with experts. As Kim was mentioning, we work with Egyptologists along the way, 4-year degree for them to be an Egyptologist. But we're going to join you from start to finish. Unique about this particular itinerary, which is different from all of our other ones, is that we always offer pre and post land optional extensions for our guests. So those are some additional nights you can add on before the cruise or after the cruise. Unique with this experience is that we've included that into the overall package. So not only are you going to have your 7-night round trip sailing from Luxor, with some wonderful stops along the way, a number of different optional tours for you to join up, but we're going to include 3 pre-nights at the Four Seasons Cairo, in addition to a post night at the Four Seasons Cairo. There's just too much to see here. We don't want our guests to miss it. And in addition to that, because you've traveled so far, you may want to take in some other sites around the area. We've also got some wonderful pre-land extensions if you want to spend an additional 4 nights in Jordan. You can visit Amman, you can visit Petra. Again, you'll have your Ama tour guide with you through those different land portions. There's also a stop, not shown on this map, the UAE, where you can also do an extended 3 pre-night trip. And then for the post stay, if you wanted to add an additional 4 nights in Israel, you can do that as well. Now, these are just tasters of those different areas, sort of teasers really. I'm sure that if you really wanted to explore them, you'd probably want to stay a bit longer. But again, traveling that far, there's really good opportunity that you may want to tie them in also. So just a quick recap again, 3 nights in Cairo at the Four Seasons, a beautiful 5-star property. We'll get some other nice looks into some photos of the property. There's also 7 nights, of course, on the beautiful Amadalia, and then followed by a post night in Cairo. And then you get some another optional land extension. I'll wait till we get through the presentation to share a bit more on that. But as I was sharing with Angie and Kim also, I'd like to hop off screen if I can just a little bit, because I want you to really stay focused on these beautiful pictures that we're going to be talking about along the way. Kim, I think you may have some things that you want to interject as well too, but if you'll excuse me for a minute, I'm just going to stop sharing for a brief moment. I'm going to go off screen and then we'll come right back and continue through the presentation here. Okay, so let's go back to share. Here we go.
And Kim, as Richard was showing, I mean, you really look at the map of Egypt and you realize, wow, if you're going to spend 10 days in Egypt, why not, spend an extra week or 5 days exploring some of those other countries? And Jordan is something that you've explored, maybe sharing with those that are watching really what you can expect out of Jordan if that was something that you were to add pre or post cruise.
Well, those countries that are not the easiest to access as an independent traveler. And studying this itinerary, they really map out everything. And for safety, for ease of use, for the American Western traveler, there are customs and ways of doing things in a Muslim dominant country that we may not know firsthand, and yet we want to be respectful of, because we are guests in those countries. Emma really walks you through it. I've been there, and you definitely need a guide. It's not something that you should just go without. You don't want to offend people, and but they really make it special. I tell you, they take you to Petra. And you get to experience the marvel. We think we're so amazing with our iPhones and these current world. You don't realize that the ancients were so sophisticated, and it's really cool to dive into learning about that. And the culture. The culture is beautiful. The food is amazing. And then you go on to Cairo, and one of the things I was with some other friends who have been to Egypt, and they were like, "Oh yeah, this hotel's good, but the best one, the one that you got to stay in, is the Four Seasons." And I was so glad to hear that that's who Amma uses.
Right.
Amma best. So it's just, you everything is just seamless, and you can access these places that are not as straightforward, and really do it with just really dive in and embrace the culture.
And Richard, I'm so excited for you to share with us really the day-by-day itinerary, as well as the different activities you can choose, because this is still a customized experience where you can plan your days based on a variety of different excursions that are offered by AmaWaterways.
Right. We have a number of different things that we include along the way. You're willing to join as many as you're able to. Otherwise, you can, if you've been to the area and you just want to enjoy your time on board the ship, you can absolutely do that. But with this particular one, we're going to begin in Cairo. The city has a lot of history. I mean, we know so many different things about the Egyptians, and yet there's still so much more. Founded back in 3100 BC. I mean, it's rich in its legacy, magnificent history, can really just be felt along the entire Nile River. In fact, the Nile River is the longest river in the world, slightly larger than the Amazon River in South America. It actually measures just over 4,100 miles. So we're going to be able to travel some of the really most amazing stretches, I would say, of the river. But Cairo itself, this is just an amazing area, hugely populated. I forget the exact number, but I know it's well over, I want to say, probably, I heard a number, and I don't know if this is actually accurate, something close to 20 million actually that, in the immediate area. So lots of people, lots of things to see and do and explore here. So we're going to begin here. We'll offer some tours in the area. And then we're actually going to board the beautiful AmaDahlia. So I want to talk just a little bit about this. Now, dahlia is actually the name of a native Egyptian flower, the dahlia. And I want to include a quick little image of that up here. Just a beautiful picture of these beautiful colors, has this really kind of tight center. And if you look closely at those different petals there's actually these wonderful little like cylindrical circles that kind of just cluster all the way around it. So just a beautiful flower. That's actually where we get the name of the beautiful AmaDahlia. The ship is actually not completely new in the sense that for sailing on the Nile, you cannot just bring any ship onto the water. They want to control the congestion of the water, which I think is a really wonderful thing. So what we did was we bought an old ship. We stripped it down literally to the bare bones as much as you can imagine and built it back up in AmaWaterways style. So just the decor that we've got on board, just all the different amenities that we have on board, it's going to be what you're used to having in any one of our other AmaWaterways ships, but it's very distinct to what you would look to, what you would want to complement the area that we're sailing through also. And just some wonderful things that we get to experience on board as well. Just want to share a few other images. I'm looking at this is our sun deck, and this is a rendering. I should point out also, the ship is just finishing being completed. In fact, I think it may have literally just been completed, but these right here are renderings of what the ship will look like with this beautiful pool, that wonderful blue tile, different color blue tiles around it. Those two cylindrical things that we see off there in the center of the deck, those are actually showers, so you can shower up there also. There's a nice deck covering in some of the latest renderings that I've seen. There's going to be some beautiful seating, some beautiful colors around the area. Ceiling fans also, you can imagine it's going to be a bit warm here to hot while you're in the area. So just a great place to kind of hang out, enjoy some conversation with some other guests. This right here is a look at the lobby area. And again, it just has the feel of what you would expect walking into a 5-star luxury hotel, just beautiful furniture, the beautiful walls and just the lamps and everything. So this is where our guests will get checked in. We'll get them pointed in the right direction off to their stateroom. Then they can go in once they get settled, and then they'll actually have some time to go out and explore a little bit on their own before we lead them on a guided tour later that evening. But I'm sure you want to have a look at some other things on the ship. This is one area, this is the lounge, and this is going to be a place that is sort of the main gathering place on board any one of our AmaWaterways vessels. This, of course, is a place where you come to hear evening discussions. We have some evening entertainment. They may be talking about the next day's ports of call and what their shore tours are going to be. It's the place that you come back just to talk to some other guests, maybe talk about different things that they experienced that day, talking about some different things that they bought. It's also the place in the evening where it can, really just turn into a fun party atmosphere with music, and just a great place once again to come and gather and meet some of the other folks on board. This here is a look at our main dining room. And what I always talk about, or kind of how we describe the main dining room, is always sort of a progressive dining experience. Now, granted, we're only traveling through one country on this itinerary, but what we normally do in our dining room with the menu is we try to bring on some of those regional cuisines, those things that are really special to some of those local areas that we're visiting along the way also. So we look to always incorporate that part that we do as well. Now, having said that, there are majority of the foods are actually going to be flown in from Europe, and there's just some reasons for that. Also, just different sanitizing methods and things like that. So it just kind of ensures the a much more safer experience, if you will, for the guest dining on board. But it's still going to be a lot of those regional cuisines, in addition to some other things. Maybe you just want to enjoy a steak one evening, enjoy a Caesar salad. So those will be some options for you as well. This right here is a look at the one of the staterooms on board the AmaDahlia. You can see that we have the twin beds right here, but these can also be modified into just a queen size bed also for you. And then you can see these nice sitting areas over on the side, just some of these other shots. Here's a better look at what that looks like as well too. So the ship is absolutely beautiful. And like I said, you're going to experience all the same things that you would on board any one of our other AmaWaterways vessels.
I love all the colors, and you're right. This ship was designed for an Egyptian sail.
It really was. This next comment kind of applies to a number of things, but I make the statement that everything that we curate and everything that we put together, from the itinerary itself to the ship design, to the decor on board. In fact, our owner, Rudy Schreiner, he's an architect by trade. He's born in Vienna, grew up on the Danube. So the rivers are very near and dear to him, but he's designed all the ships that we have on the water. So him, along with one of his assistants, are the ones that actually decorated everything that we see here. And again, they take a lot of time and attention. They don't just want to throw something together and get off moving right away. They really take their time to get it done right. So I'm glad that you pointed that out, because it's absolutely true. So that was a beautiful look at what the restroom looks like on board. The bathroom facilities, the beautiful marble walls. But this will be your home away from home for the next 3 nights when you arrive into Cairo. The beautiful Four Seasons 5-star luxury resort. It's actually located just outside of Cairo, probably not more than 1.5 miles or so. But I think it's kind of nice because it sort of keeps you out of where all the hustle and bustle is of the city, and it's just a little bit quieter off to the side here, located right next to the Zoological Museum that you'll have a chance to visit as well. So what happens is, once you arrive into Egypt, into Cairo, you're actually going to be greeted. We're going to walk you through the immigration and customs portion. We'll get you all set up and transfer you over to this hotel. Visas are actually required. You can purchase those online about 30 days before. The cost would be about $35 to get your visa. So we can certainly assist you with that or point you in the right direction. This right here is actually a look at one of the beautifully appointed spacious staterooms. These are the superior rooms. That's the superior room category. And looking out from the room here, you're going to get a wonderful look down over the pool area, but you're also going to get a wonderful partial view of the Nile River as well. Now, in terms of what's included here at the hotel, in addition to your accommodations, breakfast will be included, lunch will be included, but there are a number of places to grab a nice bite. In fact, about 9 different locations where you can dine. And in addition to that, you can also get room service here also. And then here's just a look at the pool area. Again, it's going to be warm to hot. I'm sure you're going to want to take advantage of this. But there's also some wonderful shops here located at the hotel if you want to start picking up some souvenirs along the way. Angie and I were talking a little bit earlier about guests that like that active, healthy lifestyle. We actually have a lot of guests that want to maintain that lifestyle throughout their trip. So at the hotel, you can find a gym on board as well. There's also a wonderful spa if you want to go and get a really wonderful aromatic massage. But on board the ship also, I just want to mention it now so don't forget, we've actually got a gym on board the ship as well too. So again, you can maintain that active, healthy lifestyle that you like along your entire journey. So one of our stops, tours that we're going to include when we're in Cairo is going to be a stop at the Egyptian Museum with its 120,000+ artifacts on display. This is home to some of the greatest and richest artifacts that have ever been unearthed in the area, including King Tut's beautiful mask, the death mask actually. It's made of solid gold. It was actually discovered by a gentleman named Howard Carter in the Valley of the Kings back in 1922. So we'll include a stop here. If you haven't heard, there's actually a new museum that's being built called the Grand Egyptian Museum. Now, it was supposed to open, I think, back in 2019, maybe even late 2018, if I'm recalling correctly. It is yet to be open for a number of reasons. They're anticipating that it will be open in just a couple of months in June. But when that is open, we will actually start touring there because they're going to be moving all the artifacts there at that time. So we'll be taking guests there. That will be included. The cost is completely built in, so guests don't have to worry about spending extra money to join us on this visit here. Another stop then is going to be the Khan el Khali market. This is incredibly old. It dates back to the 14th century. This is just another great place to go and explore and kind of be a part of what all the locals are doing. For generations, there's some families that have been selling their goods. Some wonderful coffees in the area. If you like coffees, I'm sure you know about Egyptian coffees. There's a number of wonderful cafes. In fact, we're going to be including a wonderful lunch at one of the cafes. It's called Nagoya Mafuse Restaurant, and that's going to be a unique experience just for AmaWaterways guests. To touch upon what I was sharing a little bit earlier in terms of the things that we've curated, when Rudy, along with his wife Christine, and when our then owner Jimmy Murphy, when they formed AmaWaterways 18.5 years ago, once again, they didn't want to just create another river cruise experience. They really wanted some unique things that they themselves, as they will tell you over and over again, they wanted to be able to experience on their own. And I think they've really created that for our guests too. So this is one more of those really unique experiences to have that lunch included here for AmaWaterways folks. On day 2, we're going to have a chance to discover some the true wonders, if you will. We're going to get a chance to visit the pyramids, UNESCO World Heritage Site here. This is a place where, a lot of people ask, do we get to do a camel ride? We actually don't include a camel ride here. There will be some free time if you did want to do that on your own. The time is normally about 30 minutes that they would offer. The cost is generally about $20 or so, depending on your negotiation skills. Another question that does come up is if you can actually go into the pyramids. Once again, we don't include that also. You got to be really physically fit to do some of these. It may not be for every one of our guests, but once again, on certain days that we may be in town, you can actually join to do something like that. The cost is typically, if I'm recalling correctly, maybe somewhere about, I think it's up to, is it 80, maybe 200 Egyptian pounds. I forget exactly what that equates to in US dollars. I think the Egyptian pound is about 15 to $1 US. So whatever that kind of works out to be. But this is, again, a day that we get to visit these and witness them up close. I always like to point out, if you can kind of imagine this, myself, I've been in travel now coming up on 28 years this year. I grew up loving, looking at history books and just appreciating geography. So when you've seen these things since childhood, and then that moment comes where your eyes actually get to lay hold of these things for themselves, it's just a really special moment. This trip is going to be full of moments like that. So the Egyptian pyramids, I'm sure, are one of those things that would fall into that category.
And Richard,
yes.
You really touched on the customization. You gave some examples of, obviously there's some must-see UNESCO sites and must-see museums, but you also indicated guests really have the opportunity to create other activities during the free time. And I think that that's really something that's important to point out, that when you're on an AmaWaterways cruise, for starters, how many guests are on ship? That's something I think we also need to highlight, is that this is a smaller ship where the service really caters to making sure that there's opportunities for you to create some of your own unique experience, like if you want to take a camel ride or if you want to hike into the pyramids.
Absolutely. So having some free time is always a really big important part. Also, we don't just want it to be that when you're in port, you feel that you have to do these different shore tours and you're exhausted and you get back on board the ship. That wouldn't be a wonderful experience, right? So what you pointed out is exactly one of those things that we always look to incorporate to allow our guests some free time to go out and explore on their own and do a few things that they want to do on their own. And then feeling like they've also taken in some of those quality tours that we put together for our guests too. So that was a really good call out. In terms of the total number of passengers, this ship actually has on board a total of 68 passengers at maximum capacity too. So again, very intimate. If you've done ocean cruising, this is nothing like ocean cruising. The similarities really go about as far as the fact that you unpack once. Beyond that, it's again, very intimate. It's up close and personal. We're docking in the heart of these towns and, venturing right off into the city in those locations. So much different experience. So thanks for stopping to pause on that. That's a really good point. So then we're going to get a chance to also visit the Great Sphinx. The Giza complex here consists of a number of large pyramids built between 2589 BC and then 2504 BC. This is for pharaohs Khufu, Khafre, and Menkaure. The pyramids of Giza and Sphinx together are considered the last survivor of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Another ancient wonder you'll encounter is the Khufu solar boat. This is actually designed to carry the pharaoh across the sky with the sun god. It's since been restored and preserved in the Giza Solar Boat Museum, so there's a chance for us to stop in and visit there as well. And then we're gonna, on the next day, we'll get a chance also to visit the Mena house in Cairo. This is actually a historic Palesa Hotel. It was actually, so it's overlooking, of course, the Great Pyramids here in Giza. It was built in 1860, and this was originally used as a hunting lodge for many of the Europeans that would come to the area to hunt wild hippos, crocodiles, and a number of the other wildlife that were in the area. So we'll be able to take in a wonderful 5-star lunch here overlooking the beautiful pyramids. We kind of sit in the shadows of them, and then we're going to head back to the hotel later that evening, and then you'll have some additional leisure time on your own to kind of go out and explore some things if you like. And then starting off in Luxor, this is sort of the gateway, if you will, to the Nile River from this area, the capital city of the new kingdom of Upper Egypt. Luxor is also UNESCO World Heritage Site. It's also been called the world's greatest open air museum because it's home to 2 astonishing temples, Carnac and Luxor, which are joined by 1.5-mile Avenue of the Sphinxes on the east bank of the Nile. It's also, again, just the gateway to a number of treasures that we're going to experience along the way. So as I mentioned before, we're going to board the beautiful Amadalia here in Luxor, kind of get set up in the stateroom there. We'll take you on an evening tour. Later on this afternoon, we're going to get to visit the Temple of Luxor. This was constructed over hundreds of years by Amenhotep III, also Ramses II, as well as Tutankhamun and some other pharaohs, and is considered one of the world's best preserved ancient sites. And much of it still exists as it did centuries ago. The duration of the walking tour here is about an hour and a half. And we do like to let our guests know also that, if anybody has trouble for walking for too long, periods, there's not a lot of areas to rest on this. So that's why I want to kind of let you know what the duration is. You're not going to find a lot of bench seating around. You can just kind of pause and think. So it's going to kind of be moving through most of the time here. So again, just a note, but what you're going to see is absolutely wonderful. So definitely encourage anybody to join this that's able to.
And if somebody in your group is unable to join on that day, I mean, obviously we've got the river cruise parked at the port. I mean, that could be a great leisure day if unfortunately someone just doesn't feel equipped to walk for that amount of time on those cobblestone pathways.
Exactly, Angie. Exactly. So you pointed out exactly right. So, it's not ADA compliant, if you will, too. So again, they just need to be aware of that too. But I think most of the guests, as long as they know that, they can kind of plan for some things also, but certainly some other things that they can enjoy. Then we're going to visit the valley. I'm sorry, did you have? Mm-hmm.
Oh, I wanted to interject. I've been on 2 AmaWaterways cruises, and many times they make it so easy for everybody who has different mobility needs, and they'll have a group called the Gentle Walkers, and I know that they will do this in this situation where maybe you're not power walking through all these cobblestone streets, but you'll get brought up to the point where you don't have to do a lot of walking. You can experience it in a way that maybe is not as aggressive as the other guests, but you're still there, and they're very respectful of that. I had a client traveling with us once who had MS, and she needed extra help, and we were in the cobblestone streets of was Hungary, of Budapest, and they did it so well. So as best as it can be done, as far as accommodating people who have mobility issues, they do look after them. So take that into consideration.
Thanks for sharing that too, Kim. The Valley of the Queens, Tomb of Queen Nefertari in Luxor. This is home to the mummified remains of more than 30 queens and princesses, of course, including Nefertari's tomb. She was actually King Ramses I's wife, and she was just 13. He was 15 when they were married. It said that she was one of Egypt's most beautiful queens, as well as being quite educated. We will include this for our guests. Any other cruise lines that go there will typically charge their guests. It's a cost of about $125, but we do include this for AmaWaterways guests. So exclusive access to go here. And then just another view inside, you can just see these beautiful colors, just the details. You can just imagine the stories that it tells. In fact, we will have a guide who will be able to share some of those things with us. So Nefertari's husband, Ramses II, one of the most powerful, longest reigning pharaohs, he built this for Queen Nefertari. Her tomb is the best preserved and most eloquent paintings of any Egyptian burial site. It's kind of referred to as the Sistine Chapel of Egyptian history, if you will. The paintings on the tomb or the walls depict her journey after death to the afterlife, guided by various guardian spirits and deities, including Isis, Hathor, Osiris, The tomb was discovered in 1904 and has become one of the most famous sites to visit here also. So very happy to say that we do include this for our guests.
That's so incredible. And just the storytelling is so amazing. And when you have these guides that are so well educated, and it's, they have a background and degrees in architecture and history, and you can really, they're at your disposal. And there's such conversation that's discussed amongst the other travelers, but there's also that time to really dial in and ask one-on-one questions of your guide, because everyone is inspired by something different, or your inquisitive nature might be different than another person's.
Right, completely. And just to be able to engage with them and ask them some different questions. I mean, you can imagine any one of these temples, you could spend probably a couple days talking about all the history and all the stories that surround it. So to be able to engage with them, they're going to share some of the highlights, of course, but you can certainly ask them a number of questions. I love doing independent travel. As long as I've been in the travel industry, I just feel pretty comfortable doing some things. But this is definitely one of those destinations that I would not want to be solo. I would love to have some of those experts with me along the way. Another stop then, Temple of Horus in Edfu. So city of Edfu is actually best known for one of Egypt's most remarkably preserved temples. It was dedicated to Horus, of course. He was actually the falcon-headed god. This was built back in 230 BC. It's the second largest temple in Egypt, another UNESCO World Heritage Sites. The walls that displays just some exquisite details about the religion, the language, and even the country's Greek period as well.
So Richard, I have to ask, how many UNESCO sites are on this itinerary?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to off the top of my head, but I'd love to get back to you with that if I could.
Yeah.
It's really
pretty
good question.
fantastic.
Yeah, let me just make a little note.
Look at that beautiful waterway.
Isn't that gorgeous? It's just absolutely stunning, completely. So, of course, we're going to be setting sail on the beautiful Nile River. I mean, just tons to explore. Excuse me, let me get a drink of water really quick.
And something to really remember. I mean, Richard touched on the fact that, this is small group excursions, but at the same time, you can always take a day or two, or if there's something really important to you that you want to experience, on your own, we can always arrange for a private tour guide for some of those experiences as well. We find that oftentimes a mix of attending the tours that are arranged by the cruise line, it allows for camaraderie and the ability to really engage other travelers, but there's also that opportunity to arrange for a private guide as necessary.
Absolutely. This picture right here, I think, is a great example to a number of the storytelling that you're going to be hearing. One of those being that the ancient Egyptians believed that the river was the passageway between life and death. So all the tombs were built on the west side of the Nile because the west was considered the place of death. And this is actually because of the sun god Ra, who set in the west each day. So it's those type of stories that they'll be enlightening to you as well. And then a felucca boat ride to the Nubian village of Aswan. So during the afternoon, we're going to take this, wonderful, very peaceful ride in a felucca. This is a traditional Egyptian sailboat. It's going to take us to a beautiful, really colorful Nubian village of Hessa is the name of the town. The region is one of the oldest civilizations in Africa. This actually dates back to at least 2500 BC, so that 45,000 plus years ago. It's known for its rich deposits of gold. And Nubia was also the gateway, which a number of their luxury products like incense, ivory, ebony traveled from their source in the sub-Saharan African area to the civilizations of Egypt and the Mediterranean as well. And then this is a look at one of those wonderful, really beautifully colored Nubian village. You see all these beautiful designs and decor on the walls. These actually tell a story of the history of these local families. So everything that you see here is not random. There's actually a story that's associated and told in all these beautiful images and even the colors that they use. And also, as part of this exclusive visit, we're going to include one more stop at the local spice market, and then this is going to be followed by another exclusive lunch with the Nubians. We're going to have a wonderful Nubian meal also here. And then Abu Simbel. I don't know if you've heard of Abu Simbel. There's actually some wonderful documentaries that I would encourage you to go and look at. You can do a simple, YouTube, Google search, and a number of different things will come up for you. So this one is optional. This one is not included. So if you wanted to do this one, I would highly suggest it. You can pre-book this to guarantee it. You can also wait until you get on board, and if it's not full, then you can secure a seat as well. Yet another UNESCO World Heritage Site here, Angie. It's just over 3,000 years old. It was dedicated to Ramses II. It was actually one of the most active of the pharaohs. The front of this temple that we're looking at, you see it has these beautiful 4 huge statues of Ramses II on his throne. Each measures 70 feet high. You'll notice the two to the left, one of the heads is actually since fallen, but he's actually wearing what you call a double crown. That part that sticks up to the top represents Upper Egypt, and the lower part resting just kind of over the crown of his forehead represents Lower Egypt. And it really speaks to the fact that he was king of Upper and Lower Egypt. This was actually not originally built on Lake Nasser, though, where it is, but there was a dam that was actually constructed down here. I forget the exact year of it, but this dam actually started to cause flooding. So in order to protect this temple from being lost, they actually had to completely deconstruct this entire temple. They moved it about 60 plus feet up the side of the embankment in order to be able to preserve it. It was also a wonderful engineering feat because there's 2 times of the year that the light, as the sun's coming up, I forget the exact dates. I know one is in February and I believe the other one is in October, where it shines directly through this opening that you see down here in the center, clear perfectly through the other side of the temple. And the first date of the year was actually Ramses II birth date. And I forget what the second date signified. Kim, I'm not sure if you may recall that story also. But again, just an engineering feat. And this again goes back thousands and thousands of years. You just wonder how they were able to accomplish that.
Real quick, Richard, we have a comment by one of our viewers asking about the safety of traveling to Egypt. I know as the world rebounds and we begin to travel again, safety is always an important. We obviously have a more profound reason to prioritize safety with the pandemic. But just all in all, how would you describe the safety for U.S. travelers to Egypt and how AmaWaterways is ensuring that safety for its guests?
Yeah, it's a good question. One thing that I would love to assure all of our guests, as long as we've been operating coming up on 19 years in July of this year, one of our primary goals is not only to offer an amazing experience. We've been talking about the experience the entire time, but certainly the safety and security of all of our guests. I think we were able to demonstrate that in how we responded to COVID once it was announced, immediately putting things in place, suspending departures where we needed to, monitoring the situation. A quick little side note on that conversation is that we actually did have a ship that was sailing last year in Germany. It sailed on the Rhine River. I did 2 separate 6-day sailings. I won't get into all the details, but this is just to point to the fact that we put a number of things in place. We were very adaptable to the current situation. We had no incidences of COVID reported that entire time on board. It was exclusive to the German-speaking audience, but again, I share it with you because it ties in with that question of just making sure that we're doing everything to protect our guests. I know that in certain areas where it would maybe call for higher security, I know that our team is ensuring that those sort of elements, those sort of things are in place and taken care of. But I don't want to ramble on, but all again, just to say that this is a very safe destination. We wouldn't have returned to Egypt if we felt otherwise. Yeah. Okay, thank you for that question.
Absolutely.
Didn't you didn't we learn from the product manager that Ama actually has many of its own port facilities that they control, that they have complete control of with their security on the Nile?
Exactly true what you stated. So in those areas where we do have our own port, and it's completely owned and operated by AmaWaterways, so just additional piece of security in terms of how we run things and are able to manage things there. Excellent point. Good question. Any other questions we'd like to address now also, Angie?
Well, we might as well. One big question that I want to share with the guests, and I have, some understanding of the best times to travel to Egypt, but if you could just share with us the best times to travel to Egypt, as well as kind of discussing the weather to expect during that seasonal time frame.
Yeah, it's going to be the warmer months, throughout the entire season there. I'm trying to call you to. I had a chart. I don't have it right in front of me right now, but we were talking about it earlier. Angie, maybe you could remind me. It's sort of that period, like when we're starting in September. I think that's going to be a really nice time to go. Also, I'd like to get back with the specifics on that, if that's okay, just so you can really kind of pinpoint that best time.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's okay. I like to do that also, because I don't want to get that part confused. Kim, do you happen to recall? I know that we were talking to Todd also. Do you recall what he had pointed out in the conversation?
And I have clients that are going, and I'm looking at taking a group.
Mm-hmm.
And I have identified basically end of September all the way through the end of March, maybe even April, as far as the weather being really nice. You go in January, February, March, you're going to have fabulous weather, as good as it gets for that area. And you're going, you also can go April, May, and maybe get a better price, but it might be a little bit warmer, but some people really are okay with that.
Right. Thanks for that. Thanks for sharing that too. So hopefully that answered that question there. Just to pick up on this slide too, and we can certainly get to any other questions. So another stop along the way is going to be Kamombo Aswan. So unique about this temple is that it's dedicated to two gods. It's actually the crocodile god Sobek, and he's sitting on the right there, and then the falcon-headed Horus, the good doctor, also known as the good doctor. So up here, and then we're going to continue to push on and take in some more temples. Unique about this itinerary, if you've done some different forms of travel, or maybe you're stopping, you're seeing cathedrals all the time, or if you've done a California road trip, maybe you've seen all the different missions. This one is different because these temples differ so much from one another. You're going to see some things that are similar, but each one is going to have some really, really unique features. You're not going to kind of feel like you're getting templed out by seeing all these different temples along the way. I just want to make sure to mention that.
And Richard, how long are the excursions, for example? Do they vary, or typically how much time is spent off ship so that you can also enjoy some of the time on ship?
Yeah, they really vary in terms of the time at the the temple visits and things that we're going to be doing. They can range anywhere, I'd say, on average from 45 minutes up to a good hour and a half, sometimes maybe just a little bit longer. We do dock in the ports of call that we can, as long as we possibly can. Our goal is to take in as many of the highlights that the guests are going to want to see. So if that means that on a certain stretch of the river, we want to do daylight sailing because there's just going to be some beautiful landscape we don't want to miss, then we're going to do that. But we're also going to make sure that we give you enough time in port, whether that's 4 hours, whether it's a full day, to take in these tours, and then have some of that leisurely time also to kind of enjoy some of the things that the locals are doing also.
So my understanding is that you can plan half day, full day excursions, and oftentimes there might even be the opportunity to enjoy two excursions in one day, one in the morning and maybe one later in the day. Is that correct?
That is an option also, yeah. So in terms of, like a full list of exactly what time the different excursions take place, and then going back to what Kim was mentioning also, how there could be different type of, stress, levels, if you will, the more gentle, the regular, and then the more active. Those will vary sometimes. Some will be a little bit later in the day when we're full-time in port. You will certainly have time to join a couple of those. There may be some other instances where maybe we're stopping at a port of call where it doesn't necessarily require us to be there a full day. So in that instance, you may have to choose the tour that you want. You may not have an option of doing more than one, but you'll still have a choice to do the one that you would really like. Does that make sense?
The one thing I would like to highlight is how absolutely, productive being on a river cruise is, as far as, so you get up in the morning, you may be traveling to your first location that you're stopping. You're sitting there having a beautiful breakfast, looking out the window, looking at the small fishing ships or fishing boats going by. You're looking at the local landscape. You get to your location, and what's so cool is there's a bus there waiting for you. It's all mapped out. You get on your bus, you go to your 45-minute, hour and a half tour, you go back to the ship. During that time, you can refresh yourself and then have lunch, moving to the next location, and you're looking out the window, seeing the river go by, experiencing something, and then you have your next stop, and it's all mapped out. The buses are there. These are the kind of things that are so hard for, as a travel advisor, to map out for a client and to make things go seamless. But it's like you're just in this. It's a constant flow of experiences that are, passively coming to you, where you're eating, and then all of a sudden you're at your next destination. And oh, by the way, you're not having to change hotels. You're in the same. You're in your hotel. It makes it so seamless.
You're right. The travel time when you're river cruising is meant to be enjoyed, and you're on the ship with beautiful amenities, you're eating, and so you're actually enjoying that transportation time versus being exhausted and tired from the travel that comes with, traveling by car or airplane to get from one point to the next.
Exhausting experience. We really want it to be enriching. It is your holiday, it's your vacation as well too. So that's why there's choices for you to choose different things also. But again, Kim, you described that perfectly, because we really want to keep that flow. And if I could not belabor that too much, but when I joined AmaWaterways, I had an opportunity to meet a number of our team members. One of those team members was what our product of development, who does majority, or actually does rather all of our European sailings. But I happened to walk in on a conversation that he was having with a teammate, and it went on for maybe another 20 minutes when I had arrived. But they were talking about one specific moment on one specific sailing, one specific itinerary, about when they were going to serve lunch, when lunch needed to end, because they had to depart by X time. And if they served it at this time, guests might feel a little bit rushed. To finish up their lunch quickly so that they can maybe grab their camera and take pictures of these things. So this is a sort of thought, really, again, just to kind of emphasize that goes into every single itinerary and sailing, every tour that we put together, right? So it could be as busy as you like, really, or as leisurely as you want. The choice really is up to you. So Carnac Temple, this is going to be another visit that we have here. This is actually one of the world's largest religious complexes in Egypt, and actually throughout the world. Covers 200 acres. There's a huge network of columns, hieroglyphics, obelisks, sphinxes, and even a lake. And it was built over the course of 1,300 years by 80,000 plus laborers that took part in this creation. This was during the 19th dynasty alone. And despite the rich history, it actually was hidden for a number of years. You may recall this also, Kim, because I know we had that conversation with Todd too, but I believe, if I'm recalling correctly, this was actually one that had basically been covered in sand for an entire time, and then it was discovered. Oh, let's see, when it was rediscovered again. It wasn't too long ago though. But this, again, another beautiful one that we get to stop here. Do you happen to recall when this one, if that was kind of how this one was covered in sand? Do you remember that story?
Right,
Kim?
I remember the story, and I think there's a lot of excitement around the fact that it has now, been identified and excavated. I don't remember any more of the specifics.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So listen, we're going to start wrapping things up here then as we finish our trip here. So we're going to disembark the ship in Luxor. We're going to fly back to Cairo. We're going to be taken to the Abdeen Presidential Palace. It's again considered one of the most luxury palaces in the world. It's actually home to 3 museums that we're going to have a chance to visit, home to the president, and a place where many dignitaries have stayed. We're going to conclude the tour here with the farewell lunch. And a lot of people have asked, why do you do a farewell lunch rather than a farewell dinner, as you would expect on most other sort of itineraries like this? But the main reason is that a lot of guests will have an early morning flight. You can get something later, but majority of the flights are going to depart a little bit earlier. So rather than having a later evening event and have those people just be really tired and having to get up to make that morning departure, we thought that we'd have a nice lunch, give them a little leisurely time to get themselves all set and ready to depart the next day. Unless, of course, they're doing one of those added extensions, maybe heading over to Israel for an additional few nights. But that really concludes what this itinerary looks like from start to finish. Again, we don't want to give everything away on this sailing. We were talking a little bit earlier, both Kim and Angie are aware of this. Having just introduced this April of last year, it is one of our quickest selling departures right now. We're probably a good 80+% sold out on the September through December sailings that begin later this year in 2021. And we're seeing that popularity extend well into next year. We've also opened our books, not only for Egypt, but for all of our departures, everywhere that AmaWaterways goes through 2023. So if you're looking to plan ahead to 2022, we certainly have that. But if you're looking even further down the road, we also have 2023 as an option for you to open up. In fact, maybe, I'm not sure, Kim or Angie, if you want to share maybe just a little bit more on what you guys are thinking of in terms of putting a group together for Egypt.
Yeah, we are exploring. I know that Angie and I both had talked. I'm exploring a group in February of 2023. And I know it's going to go fast. We need to hold the space, and we would love to have you come along with us. We're going to map out everything, so it's going to be absolutely seamless. And I mean, you're going to get to experience all these things. So.
And what's nice when you join a group, what does that mean? You can still be traveling separately, but together. So if there's a person that's traveling solo, or you're just traveling with one friend, or it's just a single couple, and maybe you just feel a little bit more comfortable traveling with a group where you have, in addition to the crew on board AmaWaterways and the guides on board AmaWaterways, you're going to have a boutique travel advisor representing you on that sail to answer any questions pre-travel, post-travel, and more importantly, during travel. So it is that added level of service that we're able to provide when we put together groups. So it's not necessarily meant to be a group where you have to do everything with the group. It's just the ability to know that you're represented, and that there is other BTA travelers, including a travel advisor on board the ship, experiencing the lovely itinerary as well. And quite frankly, it's not just Egypt sails that we look to put together for the coming year, looking more into 2022 and 2023, but we had a wonderful group planned for a Christmas market cruise last November, but then the pandemic hit. So certainly AmaWaterways, like Richard said, I mean, Richard, you have to learn the product and the knowledge and the itineraries for all your different sails around the world. So, you know, we kind of focus more on Egypt today, but there are other itineraries that AmaWaterways has to offer. So let us know if there's a particular river cruise itinerary or destination that appeals to you, and we'll certainly look at AmaWaterways itineraries and dates to find something that will make your wish come true.
Yeah, if I could just share it really quick too, not to go too long too, but I mean, we're in all the main rivers of Europe, you know, from the Douro River to all the waterways of France, the Danube, the Rhine. We do the Mekong, we do the Chobe River in Southern Africa too. In addition to that, we've got themed departures that I know you two are aware of. We've got our Christmas market sailings, which are absolutely magical. It's one of the best experiences ever. We've got our celebration of wine sailings that really focus on wine. You have a North American wine host. So those are some other things to consider. In addition to the Floriade, if you're into horticulture and flowers and things like that, we've got a number of wonderful itineraries that will stop at the Floriade. This comes around once every 10 years. So just want to slip that in.
You know, another thing I wanted to, and maybe you can highlight, I saw that Ama is going to be doing the Douro River real soon. Am I correct?
We are hoping. So we had to suspend our sailings through all of our destinations through June, with the exception of the Douro River. We've only suspended through June 15th. The reason behind that is because Portugal has some really low numbers right now in terms of COVID. So overall, it looks like a pretty safe place to go. So we're hoping that we can get everything in place in terms of restrictions that we can manage to. And if so, then we hope to start sailing by June 15th, or rather June 16th, technically. So getting into some of those countries where maybe it's only a single country that we pass through, instead of some of our itineraries that maybe do multiple ones, we may have to look at that during the transition before we get to fully, you know, operating once again.
You know, one thing I want to just highlight, and again, I'm all about seamless travel. Ama goes out of their way to access the best experiences and you know, comfort levels, like bringing in food from Europe.
Mm-hmm.
The experience at is it Nefertiti? Is that how you say it? I never get her name right.
Yeah.
But having access to that is not a common thing. That is not something that everybody does. They've gone out. Just making everything so special. Having lunch right there overlooking Giza. I mean, that's like a bucket list picture right there. They go for special little exclamation point moments. And it's just so well done. And you get so much done and experience so much within a short period of time.
Yeah, if I could share this also too, and cut me off anytime that you need to, Angie, but I think this is important to note as well. You know, I think it's fair to say, and I think each of you would agree, there are some other really wonderful river cruise experiences. I mean, if we're being fair, we have to acknowledge that. But what I like to point out is that AmaWaterways has won more awards than any other river cruise line out there. The experience that we put together is everything that we just talked about. It's exactly what you just described right now. It's those comfort levels. It's that, you know, you would probably agree because you've been on AmaWaterways, I hope, with this statement. It's like that sort of country club luxury, right? There's nothing pretentious about it, but it is the most luxurious experience, you know, from the food, the quality of the food, the options of all the shore tours. You know, some other river cruise lines may say, here's your complimentary city tour, and you've got maybe 80 some guests doing it. Ours, we're going to give you a choice that you can choose, and they're going to be more intimate, personalized groups as well. You know, the regional cuisines that we're pulling on board of these experiences that different from Egypt. But if you're looking at one of our European sailings, for any pre or post land trip that you book with us, our cruise manager joins you for that. That doesn't happen with everybody else. In fact, I don't think anybody else does that. So they're there once again to build that rapport before you even step on board the ship, point you in the right direction, you know, make some suggestions, and lead you on some different excursions also. So, and then the last part, just knowing from what you shared, Angie, the active guests too. I think that you've probably got a lot of active guests that you work with. They are going to want to have these choices. Anytime you're on vacation, you're probably going to be eating a bit more. You may be drinking a bit more. So to know that there's a gym, all of our European trips have bicycles that you can do. We've got dedicated health and fitness instructors on board. Maybe they're leading morning yoga or Pilates or just some stretches too. So these are all the things that really can set us apart from our peers.
I completely agree. And it's really a great option when you're traveling with people of different mobility issues, and maybe you have a different activity level. That I travel quite frequently with my parents who are in their late 70s, and to be able to choose a tour guide that allows for some flexibility in terms of the activities and certainly what's available on ship, really plays into our decision making, and I think it plays into the decision making for our travelers as well. So Richard, thank you so much for joining us. We really focused and highlighted on your amazing itinerary to Egypt. So we hope to have you on board again. Join us again, where maybe we can focus on either your Christmas markets itinerary or another location or destination to highlight. So thank you again for joining us. And if anyone has any comments or questions that you would like answered, leave them in the comments and we'll make sure to get answers from Richard to those questions. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Bye-bye.